Hi, everybody, and welcome to the RHAP B&B for episode 4 of Survivor 45. My name is Mike Bloom, and look, the holidays are just around the corner. We are experiencing an out-and-out Yankee swap. 14 Yankees, I should say, and 1 Canadian here, as we take a look at the first out-and-out full tribal swap in the new era of Survivor. And there was a lot to be had, including the surprising endings just keep on coming. You know, we are 3 for 4 in them so far, and has garnered a lot of opinions in the Survivor community in the past few days, and I'm sure this panel is no different. So here we are. Liana, Boraas, why don't you assign yourself to one of the 3 swap tribes? Who do you most feel yourself vibing with?
Oh my gosh. Okay, first of all, I'll get some perverse enjoyment out of this. Look, I'm here for, I don't remember their colors, but the one where it's Brando and Kendra and Emily and
New Bello, yeah.
Okay, the New Bello. Very split, very torn, a lot of opinions, a lot of feelings, a little bit all over the place. So that's the one that if I were to take a BuzzFeed quiz, I would associate with.
All right, well, let's bring in our guest for this podcast. Of course, we're talking about strangers seeing each other for the first time, really interacting, and hopefully planning a ride or die based on that. And she is no stranger to that, considering her voluminous coverage of Love is Blind, which just wrapped up. Mary Kwiatkowski, which tribe are you, I guess, if you have to choose between the other 2?
So I'm also blanking on the tribe names, but I have never identified with a Survivor player since Sophie Clark. I have not identified with a Survivor player as much as I have with Katurah. So whatever tribe Katura's on.
All right. Yeah, Mary's on Lulu. Listen, I'll take Reba. The Hot Mess Express just keeps on chugging along. Maybe Sean was the problem. I think people are certainly saying that by the end of this, considering that he was 4 for 4 in immunity challenge losses. But I loved getting to see more of them. We'll get into it. Sifu may have, in one episode, like, surmounted the ranks as one of my favorite characters of the season. So I'm happy to have Team Red Flag on my side. But let's talk about Survivor 45. I mean, Liana, you and I talked last week about how we felt that last week's boo was kind of like the end of a chapter in this season. And we certainly saw that with people like Emily and Caleb, who were able to turn the page and move on to brand new chapters. We got to see other players actually face a vote for the first time, and we see new configurations as we look ahead to the next phase of the game before the merge ends up happening and things certainly turn individual. But before we get into all of that, Mary, give me your thoughts on just this wild season so far, 4 episodes in.
Okay. Let me pull it together. I can be scatterbrained sometimes. First off, I'd like to say that despite the fact that we're recording this on a Sunday, this episode I watched within the last 2 hours. So I have heard absolutely zero of the discourse about this episode.
Nice.
I'm coming in fresh. So I've got questions. You may or may not have answers. I don't know what people have been saying about this. So forgive me if I'm like saying things that we've all been talking about for the last week, because then I just haven't known about it.
Listen, you could say that about anything on this podcast. There's a lot of Survivor podcasts on RHAP. Like, we're going to repeat either ourselves or what other people have said. It's just inevitable.
Like, this is the first time in a long time that my mom was visiting me yesterday, and all day she's like, oh, I want to watch this episode of Survivor. I need to know your thoughts. And I'm like, oh, okay, hyping it up. She called me twice today being like, have you got to the tribal council yet? Have you talked about it yet? But of course, last night I was like, Mom, no, look, we're watching Taskmaster. I'll get to Survivor tomorrow morning, but I want to watch you watch Taskmaster. So that's what we're doing. This has been a hard season for Survivor fans, both on the show and watching it. It's a very, on paper, very interesting cast. There's a lot to like. I think that there's characters you love. There's characters you thought you were going to hate, but then love to hate or even grow to love. Like, the journey I think we've all as viewers had with Emily has been amazing. You've got your Bruce fans. You've got every time I see Bruce on the screen, I've been listening to a lot of the Matilda, the musical soundtrack. And so I just keep hearing the song Bruce in my head from that every time I see it.
And Bruce would be like, hey, Brando, watch this, and like go face first into chocolate cake.
I'm loving every time I hear that. In my mind, it goes, Bruce. So, Brooce, Bruce. Anyway, that's a little tidbit for the musical theater nerds out there. It's hard because sometimes you watch a show and you're like, yeah, we've gotta have the Survivor fans. We want those fans out there. And then if the fans let you down or let themselves down or whatever, you're just like, but no, I want you to be like the way I want you to be. Obviously, elephant in the room sort of had 2 quits, kind of, depending on who you ask. Have we seen in a Survivor show since season 1 with the conch, like the Jeff Probst on the fly tweaking his own behavior in a season, where we have episode 1 him letting someone quit, and then this episode he's like, nah, we're doing the vote, we're not doing that again, I don't care if you quit, we're doing the vote.
I mean, Nicaragua memorably, like, he's like, Jimmy Johnson, you're a revered legend, go ahead, you do whatever you want. And he's like, Purple Kelly and Nayanka, I swear to God, nobody will ever serve on a jury again after what you two just did.
It's been a journey watching this so far. So I've been liking it a lot, but I've also been maybe this is like a lesson in patience for the viewers. It's a lesson in letting the players be who they are, not trying to micromanage other people in our own TV show that I want to watch, because I'm getting whiplash. I really am.
I mean, patience is a virtue that I think, unfortunately, the reality TV community, especially nowadays, doesn't have. Like, they're failing the marshmallow test. They're just grabbing the bag out of the instructor's hands and just start gobbling them down before even getting instructions.
Yeah, I love that, though. I don't know. Like I said in my opening, there are people on this show that I have just, like, I have yet to see someone that I've identified with as much as Couture. Like, everything that she says to the camera, every facial expression, I'm like, that is who I would love to be. I don't know that I would be able to be like that, but I'm like, in my mind, I would be making those same reactions. And I feel like there was definitely a lot of Sophie Clark with in her first season with Coach, like those same kind of reactions that she's having. Her conversation this week with Caleb, where she's like, look, I just need someone to strategize with. Here's everything. Like, please be there for me. I love that also. So anyway, it's been fun. I don't know. Where are y'all at?
Yeah. Well, you know, Mike and I were kind of chatting a little bit offline about this, with obviously the quits in general never leave a good taste, I think, in anybody's mouth, right? At the same time, those quits don't discount all of the other really fun moments that we're having in the season so far.
Nor should they. Just because the dessert is not good does not mean that the meal overall was terrible.
Exactly. Correct. Exactly. And even especially in this episode, because with Hannah's quit, we saw the foreshadowing, right? We saw the, I'm really struggling, this really sucks. That kind of thing. Whereas
what was that with that? Did Hannah really do that?
Yeah. Don't you
she just like openly barfed at tribal council? I forgot about that. I'm sick. Vote me out.
Yeah, I know. It's a secret scene. You must have just missed that. So anyway, so with Sean though, I almost like, this must have been intentional. Well, I don't know. It could have been exactly what had happened. It also could have been intentional from the editor's perspective, that it felt so much like this is just the last like 20 seconds. Like, don't think about this. Like, remember the rest of the 90 minutes where we had a lot of fun and we were doing all of these great things. Because when all of a sudden his language sort of changed at Tribal Council, Puya and I were sitting there on the couch and I was like, wait, what? Like, what is happening? It just came out of seemingly nowhere. And that almost felt easier, because then I could just I almost just kind of could block that part out of the episode and just enjoy the rest of it for what it was.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm a couple minds on the editing prospect, because on the one hand, to your point, people might be like, why did they hide this? Sean's getting punished for quitting by being purpled. But from what Jeff talked about on his podcast, it really does seem like Sean was not thinking of this really at all until he just got this random thing thrown at him in the moment. Like, he's not talking about it in interviews. All the interviews that the castaways were doing before Tribal Council, according to Sean, it really was like everyone was saying they were voting Sifu out.
Yeah.
And so for whatever reason, he got this idea in his head. Now, on the other hand, we're going to talk a lot about my interview with Sean, where he answered some questions and I think replaced those with other questions in my mind. But one of the things that he said was that he had a few of those moments in the 8 days before that of like, okay, maybe this is not the experience that I wanted out of Survivor. And I don't think it was to the extent of like, I want to quit the game. He accounted more so to like, obviously feeling like a Lulu loser, feeling like there's nowhere to go but up, that you're absolutely feeling on the bottom, especially position-wise going into this episode. He had definitely considered at points like, okay, maybe this game isn't necessarily for me, but nothing fully materialized until apparently that question was asked. And I agree with you, Liana. It's such an interesting turn because when he says, like, I have something to tell my whole tribe, growing up in a conservative, Mormon lifestyle, and I'm like, okay, this is when he's going to tell the story that he told me in the preseason about, conversion therapy and like the very hard lifestyle that he had. This is where that backstory is going to come in. No, it was much more about the front story of like, and all that being said, I'm good. My cup is full at this point. So I'm not a pizza. I'm not a burger. You can go eat someone else at this moment. I'm leaving the buffet. I like to think that it really was in that moment he made this just like impromptu decision. And honestly, looking at Jeff's face, I think that's the case. Again, this guy is supposed to, on paper, be like the neutral arbiter of all things. He gets informed of a lot of stuff going into Tribal Council. I think for the second time in 4 Tribal Councils, he was shocked with someone coming out being like, I'm good. Vote me out tonight.
I almost feel like in the history of Survivor, there are 3 types of quits. Now, I say that to say I can think of 2, but I feel like there should be a 3rd category. So I don't know what the third one is. Let's see if we can make this analogy work.
All right.
So there's the type of quits that we saw with Hannah, where it's like, and I would put in the same category of that, even people like, okay, all of a sudden every single name is out of my head, but basically people who are having a hard time out there in the living conditions, and what is the name of the guy who kept getting sand in his eye?
Shamar.
Shamar.
But Shamar was medevac.
Nope, don't get that. But like people who are having a hard time coping with the actual like survival elements. So I'd say like that's sort of one type of quit. In another category, I would put people who are like just like the game is not going the way they want. I'm not winning. I'm losing. Like take my ball and go home kind. Like the second Colton quit, or potentially also the first, depending on who you ask. So I'm with you on that. I'm saying Jeff Probst may not be, but I'm with you on that
Your
one.
body quit.
But like I would say there's that, and then there's this sort of third category, maybe, which is the like the Sean, or that it seems sort of in the middle of, it's like your game seems to be going okay. I wouldn't put like the Purple Kelly or even Nayanka into this category. It's like you've been living out here for a while. You don't appear to be like really struggling in the way that like Hannah was, and you don't appear to have some massive other thing going on, or at least you're not conveying that to the audience, so it comes out of nowhere. And it seems like, okay, you quit, like you quit, I don't know, playing a sport that you just weren't that into. Like it just seems like kind of in the middle. And I feel differently about different types of quits. I think when it comes to something like, I have complete sympathy towards the fact that this is an optional experience. This is a TV show. Anybody should be, it's not mandatory, and anybody should be allowed to leave. I think though that like people are going to look at it and question people leaving, especially when there's such a long process to get on the show that a lot of people would love to be on it. I feel like there's this sort of element of, in the areas where you could have prepped, like you could go camp outside for a day and see what it's like. And if you're like, wow, no, can't handle that, maybe don't go on Survivor. Like you could test that. You would figure out how you're going to feel. I I remember as a kid watching the show, and my parents would say things like, "Oh my gosh, why are they crying at the loved ones visits? They've only been away for, a month or less. People used to go on, military tours for much longer without being able to see or talk to their loved ones."
We
Like,
used to
why?
have a society.
Yeah, there's
People brought wallet-sized photos of their loved ones on the war front.
well, especially in the early 2000s when not every person had a cell phone and they weren't constantly in contact. People had spent more time. Like if someone went away on a work trip, like you don't necessarily get to Skype them every night, Like there's people had more space then. Like now I could see how if you've lived your whole life being able to instantly contact any of your support system, being away for any period of time. I mean, I've been away for like 3 days and been like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so out of the loop of the world and I can't talk to anyone." So I get that now, but it's definitely interesting, like seeing how different people seem to handle the situation. But I don't love when people quit. I'm not going to be like, "You're a bad person for doing it." Like some people get very, very upset about that. But I would say like whatever the show or the cast can do to make it to where they don't want to quit would be bad. Like you see on Big Brother that they will have people go into the diary room and be talked at for hours to try and convince them to not leave. And I don't know if they do a similar thing on Survivor at all. If they ever say, "We're going to pause down and have people try to like talk to you, figure out, is there like one element that you're missing? Like, is it that you just really need a jacket? Is there like something that you really need to stay here within the confines of the game?" Because obviously if you're like, "Yeah, I'm going to need some food and a shelter," it's like, okay, well, goodbye. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is that I think if you're talking about confines of the game, I think there is a more confining atmosphere in Survivor that specifically deprives you of those elements, as opposed to like Big Brother. It's like, okay, you need some medication. Like, we'll get you some medication.
Right.
You need this type of food. We'll get you that. Here's a blanket, Audrey. Not so much accommodating in Survivor.
And it makes me wonder though, like if there was a point where there were people, like if Sean's not wanting to leave could have been fixed by getting maybe not a phone call, but a letter from a loved one, like from his husband or something. Like, would that have been something that, I don't know, would they have rather just had him quit, or would they have rather said, "Okay, we're going to give everybody a letter from a loved one"? I don't know. And I don't know if that would have made him not quit.
Well, let me bring in something from my interview to that point, because understandable, Mary, I think you're expressing a lot of opinions that myself included had after the episode, which is like, wait, so Sean's leaving because he missed his husband? And if so, like, there's a whole ass pre-jury stint that he has to do. And granted, it's only about like probably 8 more days or so, but like, why would he be doing that? The way Sean expressed it to me after the fact was that homesickness had nothing to do with it. And he admits in retrospect, he should have vocalized it better, that he understands why, especially in the edit, it comes across. And he specifically says, like, "I realize, my adventure of a lifetime is at home," that it really implies, oh, he wants to go home to see his father. It's his husband. It's almost like a Jenna Maraska. I was thinking father because I was thinking of Jenna Maraska and her mother situation. It seems more so the way Sean verbalized it was that he came to Survivor to, as you've said numerous times, like reclaim lost time. That he lived so many years as someone who he wasn't, as a closeted person within this very constricting Mormon lifestyle. He was able to like really come out in 2016, which is only a short time ago. And so he's like, "I really love the show and I can really express who I am." And he realized at that point in day 9 that he's like, oh, Survivor isn't the DeLorean. You can turn time by smashing an hourglass, but it's not going to fulfill this purpose for me. And so, not to put words in his mouth, but I think that's what he was sort of expressing with my adventure of a lifetimes at home with my husband, is like, don't dwell on the past, dwell on the present. And in this moment, Survivor's not giving me really either.
Yeah. And I think that what I would just love is to somehow get to a place where people realize the vast majority of people playing the game are not going to make it to the end. The vast majority of you are going to be voted out. So you don't have to do too much to have, in all likelihood, that happen. Like, just don't try to stay. You don't need to quit, but like, don't make alliances. If Sean had done almost nothing, if he had come to this swap tribe, done pretty much nothing, and let them vote him out, same thing would have been achieved. I think the problem that I see, that probably most of the fans of the game is like, great, poor Jemiah who wanted to, vote him out, and then that might have helped her game, and now she doesn't get to do that. Like that might have stunk. I don't know.
Did you call J Maya?
I did say Jemaya by accident.
I'm here for Jemaya.
I accidentally said that, and then I was like, that is not how you say her name. I was kind of hoping that we just skirt around that. But
No, the dot, of course, is the phonetically speaking.
Yeah.
So.
I was talking yesterday about names with apostrophes and how some of those. Anyway, that was it was in my mind, and I was like, yeah, you know, like Jemaya, which is not her name. So
yeah, you know. All right, here's
Jemaya.
my interpretation that nobody's asked for, and it's not really based.
I'm
on
asking
fact.
for it. I want it.
Okay,
take it away, Liana.
All right, so let's remember a few weeks ago, Brandon at Tribal Council get asked a question by Jeff Probst. If you were to go tonight, what does this journey mean to you? Fast forward 2 weeks, Sean, if you were to get voted out, what does this journey mean to you? Like, if I was sitting in Sean's person, I was like, I'm going. Like,
so that's what Jeff alleged. That's what he thinks.
Yeah. Well, that is what I saw. I saw the patterns, right? And obviously, this doesn't take into account anything that Sean is saying or that he said at all. But like, that was the first thing I noticed. And so to me, that was how it felt, was very much like, oh, I'm going home kind of situation. Let me give some kind of like final soliloquy. But I just really like the rest of the episode. So I'm focused more so much on that than like the last couple minutes.
Maybe it's because I've been watching too many like mystery twist movies. I legitimately thought for quite some time in that speech that this was a pre-planned ploy that he had with the girls, that he was saying this all, and that he felt comfortable enough to say, I'm going to act like I want to be voted out to really convince Sifu to not play any kind of idol or shot in the dark. And I actually thought, like, I want someone to try that. Even if it's like not because you trust your ally. I want someone to act like they're going to quit, hoping, I guess, that Jeff doesn't just pull the, okay, we're not going to vote.
And they'd be like, no, we should
vote. So that, and so that they could play an idol or something like that. Like, I want someone to, in a desperate situation, do that. Like, it's almost in the same way that, like, when you're playing Among Us and Goose Goose Duck and whatever, and you are, you know, trying to get voted out, that you're just like, yeah, it was me. I killed them, whatever. Like, hoping that someone's gonna be like, wait, why are they admitting to that? Why are they doing this? Like, hoping that you're gonna be able to do the last minute switch.
Yeah,
I had the same thought. And that was why, because it was like, we got no indication that he was gonna quit. So there was a brief second where I was like, is this a game move? Is this?
I mean, that would be amazing if he went too hard in the performance and Jeff took him at face value and is like, okay, you said the words that you can't take back, therefore you quit. Do not pass go. Do not collect 200 fire tokens. He's like, no, wait, I just want to throw Sifu off. And Sifu's like, Sifu definitely feels thrown off.
Sifu talks about himself in third person.
Especially because I had been spoiled by the image of D holding up the Sifu vote, that I was like, well, they're voting, so and I know that we got at least one vote for Sifu, so maybe this was real. Oh.
Also, should D vote with her toe? Because, like, that's the most remarkable thing about her so far. Like, should she be forced to hold up all ballots with her feet?
Why would she be forced to do that, Mike? Mike, explain to me the world where the producers are like, oh, you've got dexterous toes. Great, you're now forced to write your vote with...
Maybe that was a beware advantage if she found it, was like, all right, but to succeed in this, all votes are cast and held up with only your feet.
That I'm kind of into. It's like a punishment.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I didn't have my feet featured prominently in one of my reality TV auditions. Not in the way that Dee did, but maybe this is a thing. Maybe this is something you should capitalize on.
Well, I love Dee too, because, like, we will obviously get an explanation at the beginning of next episode as to, like, to be frank, why the hell she did this, and, like, whether, because we see her whisper to Julie, vote Sifu. She's the only one to do so. Sean confirmed to me that D vote was a throwaway to prevent, basically, like, Sifu getting more votes or for an idol to be played or a tie. And so I guess the question is, I imagine a few possibilities here in Mary's mysterious 3 categories. Either A, she's like, Haha, good one, Sean, to the point that you made beforehand. Like, what a performance. We're still voting out Sifu. B, she like wanted to make sure like maybe Sean is like, oh, I don't want to vote for anybody, so let me play my shot in the dark, just throw away my vote, and in the 1/6 chance that it hits, Sifu goes instead of one of the girls. Or C, quite possibly D's being a little devious and perhaps pins a vote on someone like Jemiah, who they
Ooh.
go back to camp and Sifu's like, by the way, Jay was really pushing to get rid of you. She voted for you. So that, okay, now we're facing a situation where, like, we have to deal with the guy that would have been voted out, like in Emily's situation after Hannah's quit. Let's point him towards Jay instead of myself and Julie.
I mean, I'm hoping that we'll get an explanation. If I had to guess, it's probably a protection from an idol or a shot in the dark or something like that. Now, why she would feel the need to whisper it to Julie to make sure that it was, I guess, a 2-2 vote split, I'm not sure. I mean, that would be my gut. But didn't Jeff say something about like, yeah, he thought Sifu was gonna go, like Sifu was gonna go until Sean started doing this whole thing. So
Yeah,
maybe it's not. But then Julie says she's calling an audible, which makes it sound like she changed.
She said an audible was called on her, I think, which was the Sean thing, and so she was really confused about like which way to go.
I see.
Yeah, I the way I interpreted it at first, having, like I said, done no post-game check-in with any of the players, was that Dee just was like, maybe even thinking herself, like, is this a ploy? Or even beyond that, shoot, I've actually gotten my mind wrapped around wanting Sifu to go, so maybe 2 birds, 1 stone. Like, I don't know. Get both of them out. Maybe we vote out Sifu and then Sean still quits.
Sean still quits, yeah.
I don't know. Which is not exactly the smartest thing to do when you're like, I mean, I guess, well, with her, she's like, okay, and then we just take out Jemiah next time, so.
Well, that's interesting, though, and that is, I think, admittedly, the biggest question I walk away with my Sean interview with is because, to that point, I asked him, because that's what Hannah threatened, remember? She's like, hey, if you vote out someone else, aka Emily, I'm going to quit right after her. So, like, please vote me out. And so I asked Sean, like, did you make the same plea here? And he actually said, like, no, I find the ritual of tribal council is too sacrosanct for me to do that. I will not, like, explicitly quit and hold that above people's heads. If we were to vote out Sifu, I would just wait until we went to the next tribal council, and then I would do the same plea, which again is like really interesting to me. Again, he has a very unique headspace in many ways that allowed him to get to this decision. But I'll admit I'm having trouble wrapping my head around this idea of like, okay, so in that moment, you felt like you had to go. But then also, if you weren't voted out, you felt like I could probably stick it out a couple more days and then vote me out again.
I don't care. Like, I'm sorry. This has been fun, and obviously I've enjoyed this conversation, and I'm happy to have at least talked somewhat the things through. But all I can think in the back of my head is like, I don't care about that. I care about that Jake quote where he's like, "Thank God I'm a good swimmer," and then they're just left out of all the previews. How could they have deprived us of that? Oh my gosh.
No, it wasn't the previews, but it didn't have the extended 10-second laughs that he did at his own joke.
Exactly. And the laugh is the key to that quote, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do want to move on to brighter prospects, because to that point, I got to talk about Sifu. Because I have become so low-key obsessed with him, and people are saying, like, why? He's one of the most purple players so far. He barely talks. That's why. Like, I love myself these weird random people that kind of pop up out of nowhere and don't really have like a lot to contribute in terms of the main narrative, but when they do, they have really kooky things. Again, we go from Seabass to Sifu from that perspective. And Sifu, I mean, let's list off the things that we know about him so far. He likes to punch trees and swipe at branches.
Yeah.
He refers to himself in the third person.
Love it.
He likes to play, he has like fashioned a machete as a guitar, which I could think of at least 10 things on that island that are much less dangerous to your body that you should use as a makeshift air guitar than a sharpened machete. There's so many random tidbits we find out about him, But I feel like every time he comes on, he teaches me a little something new. You know, Sifu means master and teacher. And I truly feel like a student because every time this man shows his face on screen, I'm like, you are becoming increasingly enigmatic of a person.
It's almost cartoon character-ish. Like whenever I see him on screen, I'm like, what interesting weird thing are you going to do this time? Because I just don't even like he's enigmatic to me, right? I just am having such a hard time wrapping my head around the essence that is Sifu.
In the first episode, I thought, okay, this is Jack Black. Like I was like, okay.
Oh, finally, Mike White's legacy carries over.
Yes, it's like who knew we were going to have the second half of the School of Rock team here in this season. Like I saw him and I thought, I think Bruce is trying to capitalize on what Sifu is naturally. From what it seems like. Like Bruce to me is like, I'm gonna do these goofy, wacky things, where Sifu just is goofy. Like there's a difference. And I think a lot of people probably watching could be like, yep, there's a difference between someone trying to act goofy and someone who is.
I mean, spoiler alert, we're not going to play a game like this week, but I was very torn. I actually went to these two being like, okay, would you rather do the game we're going to play, or would you rather me just come up with a quiz of like random things Sifu did in this episode? Because even outside of like the big things, there was something like him to the music, walking down the steps at Tribal Council and jumping on the landing and landing like this, like he's Martina Navratilova or Mary Lou Retton, I should say, ready to like stick the landing and waiting for the judges. There were things like we had Jay Maya and Sean walking down the beach and they're talking about Sifu, and it rack focuses to Sifu sitting in the water,
toddler,
but looking like his mind has just left his body. Like he's completely had a dissociative episode. He's not looking at anything or doing anything. He's just sitting there, shoulders slumped, just staring out at the ocean. It is so strange.
It looked like someone had taken a baby and like plopped them down in the water, and they're just sitting there because they don't like really move or like know what to do. Oh, that moment was so funny.
It was a smaller moment, but even last episode, there was like, it just almost every scene there'd be people in the foreground walking on the beach talking, and Sifu like runs by and dives in the water in the background. I'm just like, what is happening?
Yeah, he's just like doing weird stuff on his own little side quest in the background like the whole time.
Growing up, this was like not that many years ago, we would make movies and videos with our siblings, and we thought we were so funny. We're like, okay, we'll have a cast of 4 or 5 people in this video, but we need an extra, not extras to fill out the background, one extra, so it's one
because the
job.
reality of the scene really gets brought in with the attendance of one more person.
Extra.
We thought it would be so funny if there was just one person who was in the background of every scene, just doing something different. Like if it's the scene at a restaurant, they're just one person in the background or whatever, and they would just always walk by or stand, and we cracked ourselves up. But that's what I feel like Sifu is. He's okay. I'm not saying he's an extra person. I'm saying it is the depiction of how we had of like one person just doing something kind of odd in the background.
Well, actually, that brings to mind a theory. So we know that very controversially, Disney would like scan the faces of extras and basically like utilize them in an AI perspective in other shows. What if that's the case with Sifu? That like Sifu is out there. This isn't a CGI Brett situation. But when we're seeing Sifu on the beach, running into the water, sitting there and doing seemingly nothing, maybe that's like an AI recreation of Sifu, and that like it's a little buggy, right? It's a little broken, so that's why he's doing all these random things. It's because it's not perfectly mimicking human behavior.
Oh, or is it Westworld?
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, see a robot.
Well, we all know to make scenes more realistic, you have to have one person in the background. And if Sifu's not there, right, you got to make do with some type of creation. But I mean, now, he's coming into the foreground. He's becoming a main character. Sifu just completely molding that he got one vote at Tribal Council.
Who voted for Sifu?
Yeah, who the hell voted for Sifu?
Who voted for Sifu? Yeah, big Rupert
I cannot
energy.
believe this was by far like the most surprised and flummoxed he has been the entire game. Yet still, he commits to the bit of the third person by asking out loud who voted for Sifu.
Or maybe he was thinking like, maybe they won't think I asked it. It'll be like, oh yes, I don't know, someone in tribal council.
I don't know, Julie.
What? Yeah, who's that?
Yeah, maybe that's what he was going for. I don't know. I'm so excited for next week just to see like the wrath of Sifu, like what actually happens now that he is forced into the foreground to become a main character.
Well, I mean, even if D is trying to pin it on J Maya, it might not be great because I mean, J Maya is his on-island duet partner. That's all. One of my other low-key favorite things between last episode and this one was the duo of Sifu and J Maya, where one partner is under duress. Like both times we get this 4 steps down song, it's always Sifu being way into it and J Maya being like, I'm not with him, please. I'm only in this by force.
I don't know him.
Yeah, J Maya has been one of my other favorite people to watch because this is someone who is playing for some reason not in the power lines, at least not the power lines we saw in the previous episodes before the swap, but who is actively trying to be, it seems to be like actively trying to make friends and do things. So I I hope she finds traction in a merge. She definitely seems like she's someone who's like, I'm just waiting for the merge, and then I'll do whatever I want. Like, who cares? I do not care about being Reba strong right now. Maybe later. And then that's what I was saying. I felt bad for her most when Sean left because she needs to pick up people like that. She needs to make new allies, whether it's Sean or someone else. But I definitely feel like she's someone who, if she can make it to emerge and connect with someone like Caleb, you're gonna have Caleb in his like group of people
Misfits.
Misfits. Yeah, it's gonna be like Caleb and Katura and Emily and J Maya. That'd be great.
Oh, I'd be so here for that group. That would be really fun. Yeah, like the people who just didn't have that, kind of immediate connection with others on the tribe. They can just sort of pick up all the extras to create something powerful. I would love that.
Before we move into our predictions, Mary, I think I'd be remiss not to get just your overall thoughts on like the Bruce Katura dynamic. I know you said that Katura is the most relating you feel to a castaway this season, but talk to me about this like overall storyline, which I think, much like Sifu, has come to the foreground and is one of my favorite Survivor subplots I think we've experienced in a while.
Yeah, I think like the reason that I've loved people like this is it's someone who I think can speak to the idea that almost like Emily did, where she's like, this sucks. Why are we not all just being honest that this isn't fun? Where I think a lot of us are, watching Survivor, like, yeah, but even the suffering would be fun. Emily, come on. But with Katura, it's this idea of like someone who doesn't isn't going to like fake laugh just to fake laugh. Is like, why is everyone fake laughing, or are they all like me where I don't actually find this funny? Like I think the vocalizing of the like I'm the only logical person here. I love that. Like, I know that Sophie played it very differently because she was like, okay, I'm not into this, but it seems like the rest of the tribe is, so I'm just going to jump on board and pretend to be on board with this, but to confessionals be like, wow, this person, what are they doing? Katura, it seems like she has not sort of played ball as much with Bruce, where I think at this point Bruce knows, like, I don't know if I feel great about Katura, so that's not great, but at the same time I'm like, yeah, love it, just like make it known, have that enemy. I want to see the war. I want to see the Katura versus Bruce war go down.
Well, you talk about playing ball. It really is like someone hit a pop fly and Bruce is like, I got it. And Katura's like, no, I've got it, Bruce. That was their entire interaction within that, like, tell me about the journey thing. I mean, I love the audacity of this woman to openly say, no, Bruce, shut up. Caleb, we're going to fact check you really quick. I want to make sure Bruce's story is straight. Like, to say that in front of Bruce is amazing.
It's not, it's not the most smooth, but boy, do I identify with that attitude of just like, it's like, yeah, Bruce, watch it. We're about to fact check you. We'll see how you are. Not smart to say that, but if Caleb said something that was going to catch Bruce in a lie, like, that's pretty good out there.
It's interesting too because, you know, obviously a lot of the confessionals that we get from Couture are like, Bruce is annoying, Bruce is annoying. And so it initially comes across as like, but you could consider it petty, okay? Right? It's
Right.
like, oh, I'm
Yeah, yeah.
voting this person out because they're annoying. But that's Survivor. It's fundamentally the people you get along with are the people you keep. That's the strategy. That is the strategy. If you don't get along with
Yeah.
someone, whether or not it's because you find them annoying or you just don't vibe with them or whatever the reason is, that is absolutely the person you should be targeting. And Couture is spot on. I don't get along with Bruce. I don't vibe with Bruce. That guy has got to go. And I'm just like, so but it's in such a fun way, right? That comes across as like silly, but it is the Survivor strategy. I love it. And she's so bold about the whole thing that just makes it enjoyable to watch.
And even more so than just I don't get along with them, it's that and they don't get along with me.
Yes.
Which is like because
Yeah.
you can have someone that you don't get along with, but if you feel like, okay, I'm not really loving their personality, but they seem to love me,
Yep.
all right, I'll use it. But I think Couture can tell I'm so low on his list of people, and I don't have it in me to like act like I'm loving everything about him to do that. My guess is that it's a little more mutual. And so that's why it feels that way. But like I tell you, the funniest confessional is when Bruce is pretending to have lost the flint and the confessional is silence. It's just Katura going, I mean,
Brilliant.
yes,
Incredible.
so brilliant. Like, thank you, editors, for putting that in. You didn't need to put that in, but I loved it. I loved it.
Well, it's so interesting because so The Office, I know, had some Survivor crossover when it was initially created in the US. And this felt like the first time in a while that Survivor felt like The Office, where it was just the cut to talking head of the person reacting out of context. Like, we have never seen that in Survivor before. There has never been a 0-word confessional outside of like random voting confessionals that we've seen. So this was truly something to behold. And it's a fantastic bookend to the montaged a la Christian Hubicki sequence of Katura just going into, you know, Bruce, you're my 13th reason why, essentially. Like, here's all the list of things as to why I absolutely hate everything that you do. And so it's amazing to see her be a woman of many words and of no words when it comes to this guy.
And I've been in situations before, most notably when I played a live version of Survivor, where I would see someone who it seemed like everyone else loved, and I just couldn't get it. I'm like, I don't understand why I'm watching it. I don't get what is it that they all love about this person? Like, am I the one? Are they faking it, or am I the one who's just really out of the loop? And it does make you feel like I need to find someone else who can't stand this person so that I can talk to them and get some, like get some backup on my feeling here, but then also have someone like explain to me. There's like this element of, you said pettiness, Liana, but it's almost like it's pettiness. It could be jealousy. It could be the sort of like, I don't want someone in my tribe and on my game who is going to be liked for a reason that I don't understand or agree with, and that I'm never going to understand or agree with, because how am I going to get people to turn on them later? How am I going to get to work with them? I'm never going to be their number one. And yeah, at that point, you got to get someone like that out, because otherwise, like, what are they doing for you in this game?
Yeah, exactly. To just touch on one other thing to move away from the Bruce and Katura, but also a little bit of a rivalry, was with old Reba going through Sean's bag. I just want to give credit to Dee and Julie for practicing how to tie it, retying it exactly the same way, remembering the order. We love detailed queens. I was obsessed.
How long was Sean gone for that they took an entire YouTube video of watching how to tie Sean's bag, mastered it, and then figured out the exact order of things? I give so much credit to them, but also, like, did this dude get lost making his way back to camp? I know it's a new camp, but
was there someone else not there who was like off distracting?
So Jay Maya and Sean walked off. I think that's when they started talking together, but like, I don't think Jay Maya was aware of, okay, the ploy is distract him while we all go through his bag.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is just where we've come, you know, like you previously on Survivor, you'd have two people just like rip open the bag, put stuff out, and you always wonder, like, are they going to notice when they get back? I think at that point, what you have to do is you take all the bags and move all of them, like throw them somewhere else and be like, hey, we were cleaning this. So we just tossed all the bags over here. So if things are a little jumbled up, like this is
the
what
whole
happened.
mom going, oh, I was going through your sock drawer, putting away laundry, and your diary fell open. So sorry, I read it.
Okay.
That
well, yeah, there's that.
Sort of specific childhood.
Mary,
memory.
your diary fell open. Probably don't show your feet in that reality TV.
I feel like I need to explain. That was, I dropped that in. No, that was about, I don't even know if I need to explain. It was not what it sounded like, but I was throwing that tidbit in. It had to do with washing my feet was part of it.
That is worse.
That made it worse.
That's
okay, never mind.
Yep.
Liana, predictions. Let's talk about Sean, who took his 2 unwashed feet and left the game.
Okay.
How did you think Sean would do preseason?
So I used AI to set the boot order, and then I wrote the predictions. Now, we haven't had to deal with this yet, but what Google did, typically we go, pre-merge, pre-jury, jury, finale, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Google came up with mergatory
Oh.
as a category, but there's like 4 people in that category.
Wow,
so
the ultimate twist, a quadruple mergatory boot.
Yeah, so I'm not 100% sure exactly how this is working. So I sort of considered it like, again, I didn't think there was going to be a swap or anything. So I put this as like still pre-merge, but like late pre-merge. Okay, so that's where Sean was. That's the category he was in. And then what I wrote for Sean is that Sean is such a likable guy who bonded quickly with his tribe, especially after sharing stories of his Mormon upbringing. I said that Sean went on the adventure / ship wheel island / trek thing early and lost his vote, which further minimized his threat level. When Lulu continues to lose, the duo of Caleb and Emily take him out right before the merge, parentheses, mergatory, if you will. And I also wrote that Sean compares tribal to parent-teacher conferences several times.
There was a fun moment. I don't know if you noticed this last episode when Sabaya and Sean threw out the idea of getting rid of Caleb to Emily, and Sean's like, I like to see you now, like, and as done as if they were stepping into the principal's office. It was very delightful.
Yes. His ally was everyone, and his enemy was Lulu shitting the bed in challenges.
Accurate.
Imagine if that was a challenge.
What, shit the bed as fast as you can? Yeah, that's disgusting.
Oh
People are like, Kierhofer's budget has bottomed out. We're just shitting the bed in challenges.
Oh my gosh.
All right. So I had similar prospects for Sean, I should say, as Google Bard did. I had him going pre-jury. I said that one of the first things we'll hear him do is make an analogy that utilizes the phrase, quote, survivor school. When he reveals his tragic backstory involving conversion therapy and recently coming into his sexuality, it will prompt internet chatter about him being an early contender for the SIA money.
Okay.
Despite Sean's master's degree in human connection, people feel he's just a little too good to be true and comes across as inauthentic initially when he tries to connect. Think Ned Flanders. Unfortunately, Sean loses out on both the SIA money and the million proper, though he's not the first boot on Lulu. When they continue to lose challenges, he is targeted as the weakest link and sent out through tears on everyone's end. His closest ally was Sabaya. His enemy was the challenges, and a randomly generated phrase for Sean was, Jean wished she had chosen the red button. Which I guess
Who's
from Sean's...
Jean?
Well, from Sean's perspective, I think he wished she hadn't chosen the red buff.
Oh.
All right, Mary, you are the decider here.
Okay.
You are the D and Julian J. Maya.
So, my feet were clean. They were not in the shot. I put them in a bowl of water. They were not in the shot. They were clean. I just put my feet in a bowl of water. It's fine. If you know me in real life, you understand why I don't need to get into it. It's okay. It's like washing your hands. You just got to dip them in some water before you can change your shoes. This makes sense. I don't understand when people walk around outside and then just sit on the couch. Ugh. Anyway, okay. It was talking about pet peeves. It's fine.
Sorry, wait, do you wash your feet every time you come home?
There's just an open bowl of water
Yeah,
right
like by
next to
the
your
door.
door.
In the video, but no, like, are you guys not washing your feet? That's so gross.
I don't walk outside barefoot. I'm not
No,
a
like,
Cro-Magnon.
even if you're in like sandals, you're walking around in the city and then your feet have grime all over them. I mean, you'd wash your hands.
Oh, this is a weird thing about me, perhaps a cover for you, Mary. I'm very anti-sandal. I only wear closed-toed shoes, so I don't face a problem
All right,
with
that's
that.
a little better. It's a little better, but like, okay.
I never considered this. I gotta go wash my feet.
Just, I'm
We
not
went through
saying
a
it's not
whole
like, oh, give
pandemic.
it the pumice stone and scrub them. No, just like rinse them off. Get the physical dirt off of them.
I don't really get physical dirt on my feet.
I think you just not looking close enough.
I wear a lot of socks.
Okay, now, we're moving to socks. Socks are better. All right, we got another barrier here from the world.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, look, you both brought up some good points. I feel like it's really hard though, because let's see, how many people do we have left? I'm trying to think of how far away we are to late
So
Yes,
assuming that
specific
Mergatory
we do.
happens at 12, we have 2 more votes, and then it's Mergatory.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think you both brought up some good points, but I feel like Liana was pretty straight on there. I mean, he went to every tribal council. Like that
He
was
did.
if what, I know that Exit Press is not canon necessarily, but like if his game had been on a winning tribe and he was feeling better, who knows how things could have gone. Like that is something that you can't really speak to unless you've done something very difficult, and like just being tired and dehydrated, and they didn't have a fire until the last couple of days, like,
which is
no
wild. So
food.
I don't want to interrupt. Like, I just want to bring up that like there was a big scene about the fire being made on New Lulu because Caleb went 9 days, a third of the season. Caleb went without fire. And yes, there is potable water, but like also then you could only eat fruit. You can't really catch anything. Like they should have been benefiting much more from the fire at Tribal Council in retrospect.
I missed this. When did we switch to like not even pretending that you had to boil water? Is that like recent? When did that happen?
I would say that's probably actually going back to one of your favorites, Mary. Like, I think post Survivor All Stars, I feel like they were starting to make that decision of like,
it's been that long?
I mean, certainly I know they've been paying more attention to hydration since the whole Beast Mode Cowboy shenanigans that happened. And so I think they want to like have as much water on hand for people as much as possible. And so that's a little tough to do. It's like during that one Big Brother season when that girl had an allergic reaction and they had to give her water, but they couldn't because they all lost the cups. Like, hey, we can only go so far because production is preventing us from doing so many things.
The only reason I bring it up is because I think I just somehow, like now that you say it, you're right. Like I don't remember them talking about boiling the water, but I guess it wasn't until this season when they didn't have fire for so long that I was thinking, wait, how are they drinking water? Because don't they have to do that? And I just assumed that was still happening. Okay, it's fine. Look, I swear I'm a fan of this show. I just skip past. I think about the strategy.
No,
water.
Listen, it's understandable. There are fans of the show that when I mentioned the pre-jury trip, they're like, "Oh, I didn't realize that happened." Like, if it's not explicitly said on the show, some people are just like, you forget about it. So yeah, I think it's sort of been an unspoken rule. I'm sure if there are people that played like in the middle era of Survivor, they can clarify it. I'm assuming around that time period, or even as recent as Co-Wrong, they're like, yeah, we can't really deprive people of water because things could really go badly.
Yeah, but so the whole fire thing, I feel like Sean just it's if you've done something difficult in your life, probably most people have. And then even if like, let's say you've pulled an all-nighter, your brain is already the next day being like, I don't even know anymore. Sure. Who cares? Like things that you might've felt strongly about hours before, you're like, I don't even care anymore if you're sleep deprived. So if you're hungry, sleep deprived, haven't been comfortable 9 days in, I could see how that would change his thought process compared to if he was on a winning tribe that was having more fun and not just feeling like they need to survive constantly and fight for your place in the game. Might have been different. But anyway.
All right, well, let's move into our game for this week. Now, I mentioned, unfortunately, the Sifu quiz will have to wait to see another day, but we'll be sure to talk
To
about him.
Sifu another
Sifu.
The
day.
Sifu another day. I'm on a
Yes.
seafood diet. But
Ooh.
let's get into this week's game, and of course, it's a tried and true thing we do every time on the B&B, and this time is no different. Everyone, break out your wardrobes because we're doing the Survivor
Woo!
45 edition of Buff or Snuff. Of course, if you are new to this, this is our basic toot or boot of Survivor. We are rating respective pieces of clothing or accessories or sometimes random other things that can be considered fashionable or not, and we are going to be the ones to determine whether or not they are fashionable, either giving them a thumbs up, aka a buff, especially this season when we found out that buffs apparently are like, I don't know, the black box of Survivor wardrobes that can survive anything, or a snuff in that we're giving it a thumbs down. So if you are
Although according to Brandon, the whole snuffing thing, much cooler than you'd think,
yeah, I think it's definitely a silver lining when it comes to that sort of situation. We are doing this on YouTube, but if you're listening audio only and you want to follow along, you can go to bit.ly/buff-or-snuff45 to have a visual correspondence as to all the looks that we are about to get into. Now, we talked a lot about Sean here, and we're going to continue because, look, you could say a lot of things about Sean Edwards as a Survivor player, one of them being the dude had some great fits. He had some pretty dang good pieces of wardrobe, perhaps representing that very sunny personality that he was able to bring out on the island, even during the thunderstorm that was Lulu. So let's start with the man of the hour and a half in Sean. I have a couple of outfits from Sean that I want to get into. This is his first one. I call it Neon Marshmallow. Do you all remember
Yes.
that like package of mini marshmallows that were colored like purple and orange and green? Sean is basically dressed in a shirt with those colors. So we see it at a couple times, including the tribal council where he gets voted out. Liana, are you buffing or snuffing this shirt?
Yeah, this is very cute. I'm gonna buff this. I think it's interesting too because I don't think I'm colorblind, and I see no yellow on this shirt. So I don't know how he ended up with it in the first place, that they allowed him to bring it, because I see orange, I see purple, I see green.
Yes, he dressed. Was Sean supposed to be on Survivor 44 and just wear the colors of all the tribes?
Yes, exactly. He would have just lived, I guess, on all the tribes. He would have sort of been this like
this go between,
around. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure.
Well, because he is by law required to go to every tribal council. So he just go with whoever's going to tribal council.
Whomever, yes, exactly. Yes. Whichever tribe is going, he would just go along, and then the shirt just applies for all of them. This is very cute. It looks warm. It's got long sleeves. You can roll up the sleeves. It's functional. I'm going to buff this.
What about you, Mary?
Yeah, I Neon Marshmallow, I see that. This, when I saw it initially, I thought this is like the rainbow sherbet like shirt. Like it's those
Shirtbird.
Yes, it's those colors. It's I'm a huge fan of color blocking, and I'm a huge fan of when you have clothes that are like 3 or fewer colors. So like if you have tie-dye or rainbow, like sometimes that can be a little too busy for me, but like this, you've got like 3, but it's got the blending between them, so it works. Like Owen's shirt from a few seasons ago, like that was a lot more like the color blocks. This is a little more like almost getting into tie-dye, how they're blending. Love it. Everything Liana said about it looking comfortable and functional, and it's another fun thing where I feel like when you go on Survivor, you want to pick something that over time is going to look dirty or faded, so that you could be like, yeah, look how it changed. And I think if he had lasted longer, by the end, we'd be looking at the color and be like, wow, look at that. Look how it's changed throughout. So just an underrated part of the Survivor clothing. I will never forget like those early seasons where you see someone in like a hot pink bathing suit, and by the end it's like white because it's so gross and faded.
Yeah. Even from a modern day perspective, Dr. Mike infamously went from like that bright, pristine yellow shirt to just like an absolute rag. I mean, Sean's shirt is already looking pretty faded in terms of the colors from one into another. I'll make it 3 for 3 on the buffs. I think what I like most about it actually is the pairing of the colors with the collar aspect. It's almost like a little mullet-esque where like from the neck up, it's all business, but then the further down you get, you're like, oh, all right, you're the social coordinator instead. So I enjoy both the formal and informal aspects. I think really indicates Sean's character of like, I'm a principal, but I'm a fun principal.
Yes.
Well, let's move from colors to talk about to patterns to talk about, because Sean didn't bring only one remarkable piece of wardrobe to the island. He brought two.
Yes.
He has this really interesting diamond patterned button down shirt that he wore a bunch of times. This felt more like his camp shirt, and the other one felt more like his tribal council shirt. Mary, what do you think about the diamonds here?
Yeah, this is another good one. This is very like doodle-esque to me. You know, I did a lot of diamonds.
Oh,
diamonds
should
in
someone
diamonds.
wear like the S's that we all used to make in middle school on a shirt?
Yes. Like in the 3D dollar sign S's.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. This is great. It's you know, it's fun to look at. The yellow is giving a little bit of a pineapple moment, which I like as well. I feel like this one, it's a little more understandable how he got this one, although still we're doing like three colors here for the most part. We got some pink, got some blue, got some yellow. I like it. I'd say the one thing I don't like is I don't like how the blue diamonds are not filled in. It's like we've got that sort of, I don't know, beige background color of the shirt. I wish that was a different color. But so I'm in between the two. I feel like I don't want to buff everything. So I would say I like it in general, but I think it needs some tweaks. So I'm gonna snuff this one, but I like the theory. I like it in theory.
I'm gonna buff this because I think it reminds me a bit of a rug, especially a rug that I would find like in a store in New Mexico. You know, it kind of has that Adobe-like quality to it. And so I feel like, listen, in a game where you want to blend into the background, dress like a piece of furniture. You know, then people will just ignore you. Nobody's really paying attention to the furniture the more you get settled in, especially 9 days into the fact.
Sorry, are we in a store in New Mexico though? We're on an island. So how is it blending in?
I mean, then it's just sort of like, hey, this is a pattern that we see on the curtains. You know, you don't walk into a room every time over the course of 9 days and be like, oh, the curtains. So I think eventually, while it does stick out at first, it becomes a little bit more rote over time.
Okay.
It's very 70s vibes to me. That's what I'm getting from the shirt. That or like the carpet in a carnival cruise. Like I was not thinking New Mexico per se, but like that's what for me. I love it for him. I think it works with his fit. For me personally, I'm not a big fan, so I'm going to snuff it as well. But on him, I think it works.
70s casino carpet.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Oh,
Thank you,
and
Mary.
you listen, you better wash your feet after you walk barefoot on a 70s casino carpet.
Or even if you're wearing shoes and socks, you better wash your feet.
You might as well just like burn your feet. Just like completely cleanse it of all germs.
Sure. Can we just say, I just want to say about this picture though, for all of you who are looking at this, definitely check out the link if you're not. Sean's hair looks great in this picture.
So good.
I love
that one
the Danny Zuko, yeah.
And he looks just so cool. Like this is a model shot. This is like, are we on Survivor or am I modeling for Survivor?
Yes, 100%.
Though if Sean was in Greece, he'd be like, actually, you know, I don't need you, Sandy. And he's going to drive away with the car by himself into the sky and never come back. All right. Well, whether we lost Sean or whether we lost Sifu, I think we would lose, in my opinion, one of the biggest fashionistas of this season, because we've got a couple of Sifu outfits to get into. Again, the enigma that is Sifu. I got to start with the outfit that he came in with, because this has to be a first.
Is this not Jack Black? I'm sorry. Just look at the pose. Everything about it is like
it's between Jack Black. I know people have made a lot of comparisons to Coach, and I even tweeted this when the episode aired. It's very much Coach doing the dragon poses in the helicopter.
Yes. So much. Oh, love it.
So buff looks photoshopped on. Does his buff look weird to anybody else?
It does. His whole hand looks like it's like the whole background looks weird.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the pinnacle of like, I don't know what to do with my hand.
I guess so.
Yeah, so the Sifu is wearing like a martial arts, I wouldn't even call it uniform, but it is something you usually see people who are masters of martial arts wear. It is this like, it's not collarless. There's like a rigid collar, but there's no foldovers. There's, you know, a button down thing that has a bunch of fastens on top of it. It is short sleeve, which is interesting to me. I mean, that's accommodating to the environment. You could obviously use a long sleeve, but I think that it works well for Sifu. Though I did misremember it as long sleeve at first. So when I saw it like in this episode, I thought, did he chop off the sleeves Michael Scott style to like reattach at his leisure? For the uniqueness, I gotta buff it here. I do think that it represents Sifu in so many ways, and the fact that he's probably gonna keep wearing this until he gets voted out, I love. Mary, what about you?
I love it too. I think it's from far away. You could think, is this just a normal, red button up? Is it even a t-shirt? And then you get closer and you're like, oh, look at that. This is unique. This is interesting. It's, subtle and very him. I would say the one thing is I'm not sure that top button looks the most comfortable, and there's not very many buttons. So if you unbutton that top button, you're going pretty deep down the chest. So, that's something you have to think about. But yeah, so I don't know about the comfort, but it definitely fits him, and it's something that it's almost what is the right word? Like it's professional in some way. It's like almost giving, like, I know I guess when I see button ups, I always think business casual, but
very business casual. But it's a uniform, right? He's like wearing a uniform, sort of. Yeah.
And especially in the beginning of Survivor, like your clothing, that's telling the people around you something about you. It's clearly what the producers want to signify you as to other people. So I think that this is great. It's very Sifu.
It's very Sifu, and I think that's
not
the
see-through though.
No, exactly.
Unless you unbutton a couple more of those buttons.
Then it turns from Sifu to see-through.
Very opaque. I think for me, the fact that it truly, like, when I visualize Sifu on the island, this is the shirt I see him in. So it's just quintessential Sifu. I'm gonna buff this.
All right, now how about his like other skin, I suppose, to use like a fighting game term, Liana? You said this is his main outfit. Here's his second one that we saw around camp and at Tribal Council. A button down, so business casual from Mary's perspective, but covered in tigers.
Yeah.
What do you think about this, Liana?
Wait, are you sharing this presentation that we are in also?
Yes.
Can you reshare this image? Because I made one simple modification to it that I'd love to see.
Let me see if I can.
I don't know if this is going to come through or not.
I'm going to do this really quick just to showcase what Liana did, which was to put a peeping Drew over Sifu's shoulder. This is seamless.
I know. It's so good. It was another reason why I buffed the last one, because of Drew's little face. Like, so we didn't really talk about it, but like sticking over his shoulder.
Oh my gosh, this is so good.
This is key here as well. Yes, the little Drew, just like
little peeping Drew. Now, is that Drew or is that Basile?
Oh, I guess this one would be Basile behind you with the club.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so here's the thing. We've had some iconic, aka Debbie's bathing suit, Survivor, tiger attire. So for me, this just doesn't, this does not live up to that. I think it's cute. I think it's subtle. Like the fact that you kind of have to look a little bit closer, at least from far away, to figure out that these are tigers. At first, I did think they were elephants. So that is cute. I'm torn on this one. I think I prefer the other one so much more that I'm going to like buff this by comparison, but I do like the shirt.
I'm going to snuff it.
Or snuff it. That's what I meant. Snuff it by comparison, because the other one I buffed.
Oh, no. Well, like Sean, you said your thing and we can't take it back.
Gotta vote. Yeah, bye.
I don't know if tigers are the right animal you want to embody on Survivor. I feel like if you were to wear a shirt that had an animal on it, I wouldn't want to go with anything extremely predatory. Because like you said, what does that outfit say about you? That like you're a killer, that you're a carnivore, that you're ready to devour them. I would rather go with an elephant. I wear a shirt covered in giraffes or mice. I'm not sure. Like anything that's not.
No, then you're a rat, Mike.
Oysters.
I wear an oyster covered shirt. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty non-threatening.
Get the people going.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be like, haha, wink, wink. But I think that, this is giving a different message than it should from my perspective. So I will snuff it.
I agree. I think that it's cute, not hot. It's it's a little too like, it's too casual. It's like, oh, I'm just going out to the barbecue. Like, just put on this shirt. I don't know. I feel like this one's not Sifu, I think is my problem with it. I see skeletal elephants. That's what I see when I look at this.
Oh, like
Mhm.
elephant graveyard.
Especially like
Yep.
on the arm that's closest to us, like something about it's a little creepy to me in terms of the pictures, and I don't feel like this color scheme is working.
Yeah.
What a
me.
reason to vote someone out. Your shirt creeps me out. You gotta go.
I don't
Yeah,
like it.
there are certainly like if someone had like a graphic tee of like The Exorcist, you gotta go. Can't look at that. Like, I'm sorry. It's good. Goodbye.
What if they were just trying to promote the new Exorcist movie, trying to make the best Paramount synergy?
Yeah, no, goodbye. So this one, I feel like it's like the structure of the shirt is okay. I don't like the like I don't know, bright pinkish. Like you say they're tigers. I just don't even see. I'm still looking at it. I don't see that.
Well, I think
know.
maybe it's a little almost too on the nose with like Eye of the Tiger, Survivor as well.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah.
I want my animal analogies to be more subtle than that.
Well, let's move from fauna to flora here as we move to business casual. Yet another button down here. Let's talk about Brando.
There we go.
So
now we're
Brando
talking about
Brando is wearing this flower button down shirt that, from my opinion, just kind of came out of nowhere. I think he came into the game wearing even a different button down shirt, which I can't think of another Survivor castaway that like had multiple wardrobe options and both of them were button down shirts. But here is Brando festooned with flowers. Mary, what are you thinking about Brando's shirt here?
I like this. It has a similar issue to the last one where it's a dark colored background with the bright colored flowers. And I almost would rather the reverse somehow. I like the flowers. They're not creepy. So there's that. I feel like this shirt though, I can't tell with the material. This looks very lightweight. So is it providing a lot of protection from the elements? You know, are you going to feel like you need to wash your whole body because you've been outside and it's not a good enough barrier from the elements? Like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to feel about this one. I like the pattern. I'd rather it on a skirt than a shirt. But I'm also, I feel like it looks too big or something. It's like the shirt's wearing him, not the other way around, you know, and with fashion, that's the most important thing. So if we're getting very critical, I would say I'm in the middle, but I'm going to snuff this one. I thought I was going to buff everything. And now I'm getting, me, the epitome of fashion is going to, I'm going to snuff this one, but it's better. It's better than the last one.
I feel like I have to buff it just because of the logic I used with Sean. Like, this is the ultimate example of that, right? Either he looks like a rose garden or he looks like your aunt's decor. And either way, are you really paying attention to that? Now, perhaps it's worked a bit too well because we haven't seen Brando on the show at all since like his big breakout episode a couple of weeks ago. But I love the pattern. I love the commitment that it's not just a typical Hawaiian shirt where it's like sparse flowers here and there. Like, this is a legitimate, arrangement going on at the moment. So I have to buff it for that reason.
I think what is good is what it's saying to other people. Like, this is saying, I'm fun and sweet and flirty, and this is great. Look how, like, not the personality, the shirt. The shirt is flirty. The shirt is fun. And I think that it's definitely like, it's saying all the things you want your clothes to say. I just wish that it was a different color. I think that's my main issue with it.
Yeah,
I don't like the color.
So I'm gonna buff it also because of exactly, Mary, what you're saying. It's this very like soft, sweet vibe, and I think that that's like what, especially someone. Look, Brando's got glasses. He's gotta be smart, all right. And so counteracting that with just like, oh, I'm flowers. I think it works.
Yeah, the opposite of smart is indeed flower. So
indeed,
right, as we all know.
That's why my last name is Bloom. All right. Well, listen, I'd be remiss if we're talking about Brando, not to, of course, bring up what he was able to rock in, again, that one breakout episode that he had, which is the tube top buff. I'm gonna buff this. First off, because, again, him breaking down any sort of gender norms that exist within Survivor 45 seasons in by doing this, but also the lovingly odd choice for him to wear it over his shirt. which makes no sense. Again, the tube top buff usually exists to replace a top. He instead is adding a top on top of a top, but he is trying to do it to fit in with everybody else. And I just appreciate the peer pressure here. What about you, Liana?
Yeah. Definitely a big buff for me. I think he looks snatched. I think he looks great. I think that this is very much like a corset with a shirt underneath. Like that's the style that I'm going for. I think whether or not he wears it without a shirt, under, over the shirt, either way, for me, this is so fun because it's him being goofy, participating in the tribe, making those bonds. Love this for Brando.
Mike, I was a teen in the early 2010s, and there was this look that was inescapable, which was a cami or a thin strap tank top on top of a t-shirt or thick strap tank top.
Interesting.
And this is what this is giving here. It's the tighter shirt on top of the looser shirt. It's almost when you wear a vest over top of like a t-shirt or something.
Oh yeah, or for those of us that were teenagers in the 2000s, it's the short sleeve shirt over the long sleeve shirt.
Yes, same vibe. It's giving Boy Meets World layers. It's giving if he had a hoodie and then put this on, oh my gosh, like what are we doing? I love it. So this is great for every reason that you've said. Also, I feel like this is, once again, it's the move of what are your clothes saying to the rest of your tribe? And this says, I'm here to play in a non-threatening, fun way. And look at me joining in and getting out of my comfort zone. So we love all of that.
Liana, do you think that a buff could be used as a cheap corset alternative for drag queens?
I mean, look, you got to make do with what you have. We know the strength of these buffs, right? They are strong. So I think they could create that shape if you wanted. Adore Delano, here's your new buff. This is your new shapewear.
Yeah, listen, I know that there are drag queen Survivor super fans out there. Shout out to Monet. Shout out to Nina West. Shout out to Selena S. Titties. Like, try it out. Make it happen. I want to see it in action. All right, let's move on here. Now, we mentioned this scene before. Bruce, of course, likes to make a big deal about, I lost the flint. What's going to happen? I did think legitimately for a hot second, like, oh my God, this is, Hunapu 2.0 from San Juan del Sur. They actually lost their flint. But no, Bruce has secrets. And this secret is a zipper in his shorts. Now, listen, it's not a big thing, but I feel like the advent of a zipper, particularly where the zipper is, which is approximately like 2 inches to the right of the actual pocket, is so odd to me that, Mary, I need to hear your thoughts about this.
I love cargo shorts. I love zip-off pants. I love having zippers and pockets just all over. It's great. I always thought, this would be so fun. You could put a little secret note in there. You could put your chapstick somewhere. You kind of give that like Kim Possible, like, what are my gadgets? What do I have? That whole thing. So I like that. I don't like the trick move of, did I lose the flint? That was not good. That was not fun. I was feeling like Caleb was about to quit and go over to Jeff and be like, I'm sorry, I need a do-over.
I'm done.
I'm done with this. Nope, I need a separate flint. I need 1 flint per person. This one's mine. But it's a good look on your pants to have all those pockets. Now, it's a risky look on Survivor because what are you hiding?
Literally, Bruce just said, hey, here's a thing that you didn't see before where I can hide other things.
So I don't like the magic trick element of it on Survivor, the like extra in my sleeve. Oh, here's the coin. You didn't know I had that up there. I think like the bag of tricks is great for Tony. I don't know that it's great for Bruce, but that's hard because I snuff it for Survivor, but I buff it in general. Like I think the pockets are great. What is happening though I'm so confused by this picture. What is the inside of the pocket hanging out? What is this other thing?
Yeah, so he turned his pocket out doing I don't know where the flint is. So that is,
Gotcha.
The innards of his actual pocket sticking out. Listen, I sort of led with this, but I gotta snuff it just because it's not even the zippers. Again, as someone who grew up in the 2000s, love myself some easily convertible shorts into pants zip-offs, and I love me some cargo pockets, but I am flummoxed by the placement of this zipper. Why is it directly the neighbor of the actual pocket? Why would you ever want that in your pants? Now, I guess it would work, to your point, Mary, ideally on Survivor, where it's like people will usually look to, your thighs for the secret zipper. No one will look to directly next to the pocket. But it just seems like such an imbalance in design for me. And it makes me wonder, Dominic Abate, I think famously, or maybe it was Nick Gaidanza or both of them, like went to a tailor to like get their pants redone to allow for secret compartments to hide stuff in. Did Bruce do the same thing? And if so, why did he now reveal this for a joke? That wasn't even funny. I gotta snuff it.
It's great for Tough as Nails. Great for The Amazing Race.
Yeah,
I think I agree. I'm snuffing it for Survivor.
I think from okay, I'm gonna buff this, but purely from the functional perspective. As someone who is also losing things frequently, I love a good zipper pocket because I can just zip that thing in there. It's not going anywhere, and I really, really, really like that. So. Now, the way he utilized the pocket, the way he showed everybody he got the pocket, that I don't like. But purely if we're talking about the secret zipper shorts, I'm gonna buff that.
All right, let's move on here to a couple of other items that are not as prominent, but still, I think, very notable. Now, look, it is fall time, and it is sweater weather. Even when they were filming in April in Fiji, Drew got the memo. This is something that's been popping up a lot in his confessional looks, and I've been very excited to have the opportunity to talk about this, like, cable knit Knives Out-esque sweater that Drew is wearing on the island. Liana, what do you have to say about it?
First of all, I think I own this sweater. I think I own like a gray version of this sweater, so I should buff it for that reason. I also love the fact that Drew's limbs are just so long that the sleeves are far too short,
It's
despite
like shirt
it even
capris
being baggy on him. Yes, exactly. It feels like as soon as that thing gets wet, it is so heavy. It is cold. I think it looks good, but if I gave Bruce a buff for the functionality here, I gotta give this a snuff for what I perceive to be the lack of functionality, because I would just be cold and wet wearing the sweater.
Yeah, Mary, what do you have to say?
It does look like it is probably not the best of, if that gets wet, it's a goner. But what I like about it is the casual college professor on his day off, sitting by the fire, reading a book. I think when you know that you're going to have the like gangly nerd archetype attributed to you, which I think Drew has done a pretty good job of kind of skirting in the season. I think that there are some dangerous shirts that and outfits that you want to move away from. I think like you can either go full Cochrane and wear the sweater vest or whatever, but I think this is a little bit more casual, cool, a little more like, okay, we've in this picture even says grad student. I feel like it's giving that. I feel like it's if you are, I'm trying to think of what he could wear that would still be in his archetype that would be better than something like this.
Like suspenders and a pocket protector.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. That's bad. That's like this is better than him wearing like a mustard colored button up. Like this is good. Like I think that this works because it feels a little more down to earth. Here's what it also has. Now I'm not saying that he would do this, but I feel like this is the kind of thing where you're like, oh, do you need to borrow my sweater here? Oh, it's so cute because I'm so tall and now you're drowning in my big sweater. Like I kind of like that about it. So, you know, for like the fake showmance that I'm putting on him that he doesn't have, but I think would work. Or give it to Austin. Like, Austin, here, share my sweater.
Oh, is that like having someone wear your varsity jacket?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like it could be like a blanket. Like, he could take it off and do the thing where you like tie it around your neck, you know?
Like over the shoulders, you mean?
Over the shoulders. Like, it's kind of preppy. I don't know. I actually really like it. I think that in this, something about how it fits with the pants he's wearing. I don't know why. I'm going completely random because I know I snuffed the the flowered shirt, but I love this for some reason. So I'm buffing this. Maybe
I'm
it's
of a
just because I feel like I want to own this. I
Yeah.
love the cable knit.
No, and it looks like, again, thick as all get out. It's probably the thickest thing about Drew. I will say that I'm of a couple minds here. On the one hand, I love the intention to rehab the Cosby sweater, to like make it your own, to be like, okay, I'm going to bring this back because it does look, to your point, Mary, very studious, very refined, yet very sort of like welcoming. At the same time, I cannot get past the fact that Drew is essentially wearing a giant red sponge, and that any ounce of moisture that gets on this thing is going to absorb it for the rest of the game. Drew could walk into Final Tribal Council and he could get hugged for winning $1 million, and water would ooze out of him and put out the fire at Tribal Council. So I feel like just purely because of the discomfort that it probably is going to cause. I mean, it rained pretty hard on like day 3. I have no idea how this thing stayed dry. It's probably his most prized possession. And while I do love the idea of, someone like, I don't think there's anyone like super small on this cast, but like someone wearing, the floppy Drew arms like they're at the end of Big is a very fun image. I still think from a utility perspective, I'm going to snuff this.
Yeah.
Well, let's go from long sleeves to no sleeves. So Jake is more so seen in...
This picture is so funny.
Yeah, I had to do the whole outfit here. Like, I was thinking of just, okay, initially, because I more so want to buffer snuff the tank top, but like, the image, which is of the next challenge, is like Jake in a dark blue tank top that just says Boston and a 4-leaf clover on it, but then also green shorts and nearly knee-high socks. He's just looking like the most delightful goober ever. I really have to buff this. Like, the tank top is so stupid. I really like, okay, Family Feud, top 3 things about Boston. A, it's named Boston. B, there's Celtics and Lucky Charms affiliated with it. Great. Throw it all on a t-shirt. It is basically, if you need to know Jake's from Boston, this is maybe the top 2 things you need to know about Beantown on a piece of clothing.
Wasn't there an episode of 30 Rock where they were like, top 3 things about Boston? Boston baked beans, Boston cream pies, Boston Rob Mariano.
Yeah, Jack Donaghy referenced it. There was also the same show that had Aris and Suri as named characters.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the proportions of this ensemble are what really get me. Like the length of the shirt combined with the length of the socks. Like I can't decide if I want the socks to be longer or shorter. They're like legitimately the worst length. They make his legs look so short. I just the knees. That's all we're giving today. I'm gonna snuff this for the proportions. I have nothing in it. Like, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with any singular piece of this. It's just the combination of all of them, also with the posture that gives off the true gooberness of this whole ensemble.
What do you think, Mary?
Shorts are, I know my dad has these shorts. These were the shorts that when we were in the aforementioned making videos with our one extra, if we ever needed to be a male character, we would go and grab these shorts and wear them. And then like a button-up shirt. And that was the look for some reason. The socks are so bad. Everything about them. The color, the length. They look, I don't know if they have elastic in them. They look like shin guards is the problem.
Yes.
They don't look like socks. Like you can see the ribbing on them. They're they're so bad.
He looks like he's about to go play soccer.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
In middle school.
Yeah, they need to be about 4 inches shorter, I think, if you're gonna go for like a crew or like a mini crew. But we're protecting the shins from the outside world. But these socks need to be burned. So that's bad.
Yeah, so these, I don't know what color they started as.
I have no idea. Okay, shorts are fine. Socks are horrible. Here's the issue I have with the shirt. 2 big issues. Number 1, the 4-leaf clover is too close to the word Boston. I don't know who designed this, but there's no gap. It's like touching the bottoms of the letters. That bothers me. Don't know why. It needs to move a little bit. Second, it already looks so stretched out. And in competitions where it could get caught on something, or if they ever bring back any of those like physical ones where someone's grabbing the back of your shirt, this is going to get even more stretched out. It's going to break. It's going to fall apart. It's not protecting your shoulders or your neck or your top of the chest. Like, what is this? No, it's horrible. And maybe have some posture lessons because the schlump is happening just a little bit. But it's
Mary
great.
out here shading him, being like the schlumping.
I'm being so mean for no reason. Except
I love it. This is what it's for.
I mean, I would hope that nobody ever looks at my wardrobe and then gives me a buffer snuff because it's not good. Look, you're doing your best, but this is an outfit that is definitely making you look. Here's what it is doing. It's making him look less intimidating. So,
okay, so yeah,
if that's your
There you
goal.
go.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, considering the guy that came in being like, I'm a lawyer. He's like, oh, well, here's some other things to remember me by. A, I'm from Boston, and B, I kind of look like a little dweeb.
And
Aw.
after my big lawyering, I go kick the soccer ball around with some of my friends. Keep on the same shorts, pop on a tank top and some really, really grody shin guards.
All right, well, last but certainly not least, this is, you could argue maybe not an outfit, but listen, Emily mentioned it. She said that, like, Brandon, just you wait until you get home and you're going to check out how beautiful your hair is. And so we got to make mention of it here. Gone, but certainly not forgotten. One of the first people that was actually mentioned on this podcast this week. Liana, are you buffing or snuffing Brandon's on-island hair?
This is a 10 out of 10. Whatever. This is whatever we have higher than a buff. Whatever our shoot is, like this is stunning. His hair looks so good. As someone else who has like a 2A, 2B natural curl pattern, who just is really struggling to find the right products. Apparently Survivor is the right products, because out there on the island, I don't know how he does it. His hair looks absolutely stunning. Again, a complete buff.
What about you, Mary?
I love what the island was doing to his hair. I just wish in challenges he had a hair tie, because
oh yeah,
the hair in the eyes is something that's like, you know, when you watch one of those like period piece movies or like Pirates of the Caribbean, and the characters with long hair are running around and they're like, it's whipping in the wind, it's getting their face. I'm like, just tie it back, pull it back. Oh my gosh, how are you doing this?
I know.
But it's got like a lusciousness to it that I feel like is severely lacking from some other people's hair. So I'm gonna have to ask what the regimen was and you know, how that compares, because here's, I think, my biggest fear is that you would go on Survivor and something, whether it's your skincare or your hair care, all of a sudden everything's working. And you're like, shoot, I guess this just means that I need to live outside for the rest of my life.
I know.
Which is bad news for Brandon, considering, again, he was a bit in over his luscious head of hair when it came to Survivor.
Ugh, like I'm so amazed. Yeah, I don't know. Did he do like a keratin treatment before he went out there? I don't know.
Maybe that's what it was. Coconut face mask? I don't know. Maybe there was something out there. We don't know. Face mask, hair mask. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it just looks so great. And again, I love how it's not in opposition to like what Brandon brought, but considering again how much of like a ball of anxiety he was, to have him almost have this effortless mane of hair around him, like, it's such a great dichotomy that the hair is almost like everything that Brandon wasn't representing out there, of just like calm and jungle boy. And here's Brandon being like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm trying. And so I love it. I just love the look so much. He also looks like he's straight out of like, I don't know, the Man in the Iron Mask, or like he was the Count of Monte Cristo or something.
I was thinking more Tarzan.
Yeah,
hair,
Tarzan.
But okay.
Yeah, I was definitely leaning Tarzan. And not Tarzan from Survivor Tarzan, but actual Tarzan.
Thank you for clarifying. Yeah.
All right. Well, after a rather hairy game, I should say, that's going to do it. And I will also say, for those that are not watching the video, I should acknowledge that in honor of the wardrobe infused game that we played, we brought this up a couple weeks ago. We did a Price's Rourke where we looked at some Etsy items, and one in particular that stood out was a Jeff Probst Eras Tour t-shirt on Etsy. And I had several people sliding to my mentions asking me for the link, and I thought, you know what? I think I should get one for myself. And so I'm wearing it in honor of the occasion today. A new era short, if you will, for Survivor. Well, Mary, this was such a great time having you on the B&B as always. So is there anything you'd like to highlight in terms of a charity or cause for people to check out if they are so inclined to do so?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned this. So I just purchased a similar shirt, but okay, this is how not tapped in I am to like modern pop culture. I know I had heard people in the Price's work. I had heard you mention an Eras Tour shirt. I'm like, I don't know what that means. And now that I'm looking at this, I'm going, okay, I just bought a shirt that looks like this. I did not realize that it was a play on the Eras Tour.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yes.
So I bought a for those of you who know who John and Hank Green are, I participate in Pizza Miss every year, where they make John Green related products that have to do with pizza. It's very confusing. But they made a John Green shirt that looks very similar to that. So it's definitely an Eras Tour shirt. And it says tour shirt. How did I not get the memo? I just did not. I was like, oh, this is a funny looking shirt. Great, cool. Anyway, so this is not a specific charity necessarily, but what John Green in particular has been doing a lot of work this year to give awareness towards the tuberculosis disease, and like the fact that it's still an extremely deadly disease, even though it's widely curable, but that a lot of countries don't have the ability to access the tests and the cures for it. So if you're interested in learning about that, it's something that like a lot of people, especially in America, think like, oh yeah, tuberculosis, that was like an old thing that doesn't exist anymore, and still it's one of the most deadly diseases and widest killer of people in other countries. So educate yourself on that. And then if you would like to support, there's a lot of different foundations. Find one that's important to you that is to raise money for tuberculosis awareness and treatment for countries who don't have the ability to do so.
Oh, amazing thing to highlight. So, Mary, I know you were just finishing up one of your own eras in terms of coverage with Love is Blind. Oh. What would you like to plug with that, or anything else you might be doing out there on the interwebs?
Yeah, if you have not watched this past season of Love is Blind but want to check it out, or just listen to the coverage by myself in Asia, you can check that out over at robisawebsite.com/first sight feed. That's also where the Married at First Sight coverage is. This past season was definitely unique compared to the previous seasons of Love is Blind. So definitely check that out. And I think that the next thing I have, which is, I'm not exactly sure when it's coming out, probably in a couple weeks, but I have just done another spot on Dan Heaton has a podcast called The Tomorrow Society that's all about different theme parks and roller coasters. And so that's a kind of very different from a lot of the other TV show kind of stuff we talk about. But I'm a huge theme park nerd. So I went over there to talk about the newest ride at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, Dark Coaster, and the history of the previous ride that was in that spot, The Curse of Dark Castle. So if you're interested in like defunct roller coasters, why they leave, how new rides get put in, check out his podcast and check out my episode that'll be coming out soon.
Amazing. Liana, what do you have to plug this week?
Yes, well, you can find me on Twitter at Liana RHAP. I did 90 Day this week. I did Crime Scene this week. I did Mass Singer, of course. And then Lego Masters is also this week. So there's a lot of Liana out there if you're interested in more coverage.
All right, and you can follow me at a Mike Bloom type. I mentioned this before, but I had an interview, of course, with Sean. Again, a lot of insight into his own perspective as to everything that went down, how quickly it went down, and even some stuff from his own perspective on the Lulu side of things. So really encourage you to check that out. And of course, I have Exit Press with the team eliminated from the Erasing Race, shockingly, with the most recently evicted Big Brother contestant, as well as interviews with the winners and nearly every finalist from the Challenge USA Season 2 as we finish up coverage of that. Also covering The Amazing Race, of course, in podcast form, and Battlestar Galactica as well over on post-show recaps. Next week, we are going to see exactly what the next stage of new Reba holds, with an irate Sifu coming back with some questions that need to be answered. And while we're talking about next week in Survivor, here's a guy that is looking back in the past, the host, of course, on This Week in Survivor History. You know we got to have him on every season. Jordan Kalish is going to jaunt his way over to the B&B next week to assuringly bring some weird game into the podcast. But I, for one, cannot wait. Of course, if you want to send us games, you are absolutely free to do so. You can reach out to us, rhapbnb@gmail.com, or use the hashtag RHAPBNB. Again, we are accepting of any and all ideas. Special thanks to Scott Sampierre and the entire RHAP team behind the scenes for getting everything edited, packaged, and put out for you all. And Will from America for his fantastic theme song. Liana and I will be back next week with Jordan Kalish to break down episode 5 of Survivor 45. Until then, everybody, we'll check you out at your next stay.